Hello fellow masters, welcome back to Fate Grand Order. Today we are talking more about 2021. I hope you enjoyed my latest uploads with the summon montage for this year of 2020 and the 2021 whole year overview and the event and stuff. But today we go into the servants, because number one in the servant or the 2021 of the whole overview of that year, I was not very knowledgeable of most of the servants of that year, except for my own personal favorites and my things. But thankfully, you guys, the viewers, the commenters, are really got me into thinking and looking into the servants and the characters that I didn't really think about too much. And you guys make me think about a lot of things, and I really enjoy and appreciate that. So thank you very much. And after looking into the servants and talking with you guys and taking into consideration what you guys have to say about the servants for 2021, here are some of the servants that I personally would say are worth, maybe considering about. If you really want someone, of course, I'm gonna admit, guys, I want Artoria Pendragon Ruler, but she's not on this list. Okay, she may be a ruler, but she's not up there in terms of a servant that's super good that you need to save for, right? So these are servants that are considerably good in their field and are considerably strong, and you should, if you want to consider or looking for someone, then look at these guys. So let's get started. First off, we'll do 10 servants in total, but the first 5 are they're honorable mentions. In fact, I have another list of 5 servants that are up there in terms of who you want to summon for. These are 5 honorable mentions, and then 5, the big 5, the top 5, right? We go and do top 5, top 10, whatever list. So I don't have a specific order in what I'd really say is important. I guess we'll start off with number 10. So number 10, who I think is okay before, is Sima Yi Rhaenys, or Rhaenys. So this character, this servant in particular, I was also thinking about summoning for her as well, because she is a event limited servant. She's from the Case Files waiver collab that's gonna happen in April or something like that. And I was looking at her kit, mostly I was oh yeah, she's in the anime, I thought she's cool and all, but looking at her kit, essentially, her brother Waver, she shares a lot of similarities to Waver, and people like to call her Rider Waver, and that's technically kind of almost there. So first skill, increase party's defense by 3 turns, reduce party's damage taken for 3 turns, sounds familiar, and charges party's NP by 10%. Sounds familiar, right? Second skill, charge one ally's NP gauge by 20%, increase their attack by 3 turns, and then reduces her own attack by 20% for 3 turns. So of course, she is indeed a support rider, and mostly similarly, she has similar aspects to Waver, where you charge NP, give defense, give attack, and her third skill also, I believe, give an ally invincibility for 2 attacks for 3 turns, and do their debuff resistance as well. This one gets buffed a year after, I believe, in the interlude thing, where it also charges their NP gauge by 20%. So in total, she can charge someone's NP gauge by 50%, give them invincibility, charge their attack, and give them defense. Sounds a little bit like Waver. Now, technically Waver does have the crit damage thing, but invincibility is pretty cool. So overall, she's pretty solid. I mean, I can't disagree with a support rider Waver, because Waver charging NPs, giving them protection and stuff. So yeah, she's a full support rider, which is I can't think of the top of my head much of support riders, but let's see her stats here. I'm not too knowledgeable about the stat ranges and who has higher attacks and whatnot, so if you're interested in that, then here's the info. I'm on the FGO Wikia. Let's see here. Her Noble Phantasm is 150% chance to reduce all enemies' defense for 3 turns. Sounds familiar. Grants party ignore defense class disadvantage for 3 turns. I believe that means grants party ignore defense class disadvantage. Ignore defense class disadvantage. Does that mean it protects you from your weakness? I believe. Hopefully that's what it means. And then reduce defense, 150% chance to reduce their critical attack chance by 30 turns. Sounds familiar. So yeah, Rhaenys is when I was thinking about summoning for Rhaenys, I already had this in mind, thinking that I have Waver. So you know, personally, I would like to summon her because of the character who she is in the anime and stuff, and like, you know, it'd be cool to have. But like in terms of like, you know, if you don't have a waiver yet and waiver gets rated up right before her, then you'd probably want to summon for waiver. Most probably. Majority of people would probably summon for waiver. Actually, you know, I changed my mind actually, because in the year after this, right, 2022, there is going to be a thing where we get a free 5-star of our choice and waivers on there. So technically, depending on who you want, I'm not saying who's better or not, but she's someone to consider for rolling, and she is indeed what do you call it, event limited. So she only had this rate up and then an interlude rate up the year after. So this event has not been rerun. And if you're trying to get this character, then by all means try going for her. But essentially, the way I see it is that she is essentially almost like waiver, but a rider, and is different things basically. So that's why she's on my top 10 or number 10 on the list of people to consider for. Like, let's say you don't have a waiver and you're trying to get a waiver like character who can support you with attack and defense and invincibility for attacks, then Rhinus is your girl, probs, if you're not trying to get waiver or save for waiver for the ticket. So that's number 10. Let me know. I would like to summon for her still, although she does get the rate up the year after with the interlude, so that might be my next chance, or the rerun for the event whenever that happens, because the Case Files event has not been rerun yet, although they might add a new servant in the future depending on what happens, but who knows. So yeah, Sima Yi, Rhaenys, number 10. Number 9, I honestly don't know who the hell to think about. I don't have a specific order of who these characters do. These are just like honorable mentions, but if I had to pick someone who is next, it'd probably be King Protea. Now, alter egos are a interesting case, because so far we've only been given one free alter ego, which was Elizabeth, and she's a single hit buster alter ego. King Protea is a AoE buster alter ego, and although I don't really need her because I have Passion Lip, I got all of Okita Soji alter, I gotta say her skills seem pretty interesting. So here's her first skill, where she gives herself this buff that increases her max HP for every turn for 10 stacks. Make it stack up to 10 thing. So pretty interesting skill, right? For 10 turns, it gives you max HP raise buff, right? And the second skill is basically reduces your skill cooldown by 1, so pretty interesting. Charges own NP gauge per proliferation stacks, which is the first skill. 500% chance to remove own proliferation stacks or skill, HP proliferation and NP damage resistance up, proliferation buff. Wait, what? Oh yeah, because the skill gets buffed. Okay, we should probably talk about the buff in the future. But also with this buff, it also increases max HP and then gives NP damage resistance up, I guess, from the looks of it. NP damage up resistance up 8% permanently. Okay, so yeah, there's a super defensive skill basically. This one reduces skill cooldown by 1 and removes your stacks from that skill, the first skill, but charges it for every stack. So this is pretty big. I'll talk about that in the end. And third skill is just increased attack, right? Skills, passives, you got Buster performance, arts performance, crit damage, bunch of other things. Her NP deals damage to all enemies. Buster and increased Buster performance, the overcharge. So far from what this says is that she just hits hard, all right? And this first skill combined with her second skill is very interesting, because this thing is here for 10 turns. So let's say you activate the skill turn 1 when you start the battle, and then after 3 turns pass, you have 3 of this stack, and then you use your second skill, and then it charges it 3 times depending on the level. So if it's level 1, you get 30% charge on your NP or your NP gauge, right? And then it moves your stacks, and max charge at level 10, that'd be thing. So like this, if this is how it works, the way I'm seeing it, this is pretty good at NP spamming the hell out of the thing. Well, I don't want to say NP spamming, but like it's really good at charging your NP gauge, because considering this thing is at a 10 turn cooldown at max rank, and then this thing does reduce your own skill cooldown by 1. It's like, it's very whatchamacallit, I guess. Actually, for a fact, you probably would need to run like a kaleidoscope on King Protea. You could probably run like Black Grail or something that just boosts your damage and busterness and whatnot. And then you use this, and then you can charge it pretty easily with thing at max level 20%. That would mean you just need to have this stack, this first skill happen for 5 turns, and then you use the second skill, and then bam, you have your NP ready to fire and launch. And then this thing, it just screams that this NP will hurt. And I'm pretty sure, I don't know exactly, because, you know, everyone says that Okita has like the lowest damage in terms of the alter ego AoE thing, servants. And looking at King Protea, I just see damage. I see red buster cards, so it must mean she hurts a lot, and that's honestly pretty strong, because having an AoE buster alter ego is pretty useful in some situations. In the challenge fights for Christmas we were fighting just now, I was using Okita Sochi a lot. Thankfully I have her, but if you don't have an alter ego who can take on, you know, all of the cavalry plus foreigners plus berserkers, then you know, alter egos are something very to consider for. And the only alter ego we ever get for free so far is Elizabeth, who is single hit. So King Protea is pretty up there, I must say. She seems pretty like she's gonna hit hard. What's her attack at? 12,000? That's still pretty decent. And then if you need something else to roll for King Protea, she's a Sakura face. Perfect. Okay, so yeah, I was not really interested in rolling for this King Protea. I already have Passion Lip. If anything, I would like Melt, but we'll see. I'm not too sure if she'll make an appearance in the actual story for the Seraph rerun, because we didn't see her at all in the Seraph rerun, not to my knowledge. But interesting character, and you know, pretty solid servant. If I wouldn't be mad if I got her in a GSSR or something, because more alter egos ain't that bad. They're pretty useful. Next up on the list, we have who would I want? Let's just say Mr. Li Xuan Assassin. This guy seems pretty okay in my opinion. Like recently we just fought him in freaking, what was it, Lost Belt 3. So we have a little bit of a grasp of his abilities and damage, and or you know, what he looks like, I guess. But this guy, Assassin Li Xuan, is a single hit arts assassin, preferably known as One Punch Man because of his ridiculous skills. I won't say ridiculous, but his pretty solid skills. First skill, ignore invincibility, increase crit damage for a turn. You want to hit them. They want to kill them. Second skill, gives himself evasion for a turn, solid defense. Increase crit absorption for 1 turn and gets crit stars. Pretty solid. You can get 15 stars. Okay, so you want to crit, hit hard. Third skill, increase attack, further increase attack, and give yourself debuff immunity. So max rank, this thing gives you 50% attack up, and you want to get crits to yourself, and you want to make sure you want to pierce the invincibility of all the riders, and a good majority of riders do have invincibility, which is pretty solid, or evades, but you can work around that. Passive, increase arts. Noble Phantasm, what's this? Oh, it's an interlude. Okay, well, this gets buffed. So Noble Phantasm, arts, single hit, deals damage to an enemy, 100% chance to insta-kill them, and that insta-kill chance thing is kind of whatever. But it reduces their defense for 3 turns, which is overcharge, and it activates first. So this is really good. Like, this is solid. So after the interlude, it just gets damage buff, basically. And I think the defense is the same. Yeah, the damage gets things. So what I see here is someone who wants to kill riders really fast or really good. So 50% attack, gain crit stars plus an evade, so solid defense. Ignore invincible, you want to hit them. Crit damage also plus bonus. He has a passive art skill. His thing reduces defense before hitting them, and it is only 1 hit. Yeah, sorry, my throat. So it is actually 1 hit. I see why people call him One Punch Man, because it literally is 1 hit. Interesting. So this is a solid assassin for single hit damage. Now, technically, we've been given a lot of single hit assassins over the time. Mostly Shiki is the one I always think about. But if you haven't played you know, starting this year, or you know, if you haven't joined FGO in the later half of 2020, because the Garden of Words Sinners event was February, I believe. So if you don't have a single hit assassin, then Lee Shuen's pretty good, I must say. Like, looking at this guy, he seems like a solid assassin. Although I do have Jack the Ripper, I got Shiki. You know, I have other single hit assassins besides that, but I gotta say Lee Shuen's kit seems pretty solid, and I dig the look. Like, he's like the kung fu look. These ones are whatever, but this is a kung fu master, and I kind of dig that because I like the martial art in some aspects. And like, this guy literally just one punches you to death, and the death insta kill chance is like freaking funny, or not funny, but like it's cool. So he is sloth until you complete him, and he's added to the servant pool. Okay, pretty interesting. So he's not limited, I guess, from what this thing says. That's pretty cool. So solid servant, I must say. And he gets rated up in the beginning of the year. Well, his first rate up is on January, so he's gonna be there. And if you're looking for a solid assassin, or the guaranteed 5-star for New Year's did not give you one single hit, one punch assassin, then Lee Shuen's pretty good. Although I can't tell about his rate ups. What are his rate ups? Technically, New Year's he's always there. So is there any rate up? Well, he's permanent, so there's nothing to be too thing about. But in terms of rate ups, I'm pretty sure he has a few rate ups over the times from what I've seen. So, you know, this guy actually surprised me. I was like, oh, this, you know, it's Lee Shuen as an assassin, and he's like, I don't know, he punches people, he does martial arts. I thought that was cool before, but now looking at his skills, I'm just like, oh man, this guy's really good. I really dig this guy. I would not be mad getting this guy. So pretty solid, pretty solid. Next in our honorable mentions list, or top 10, top 5, whatever, lower 5, I don't know what I'm saying, is Benny Enma. So Benny Enma is Saber, who will be our New Year's 2020 servant. I am not too interested in, because I have other single hit sabers, but single hit sabers is actually kind of rare to get so far until we go to summer of next year, when we get our, I think it's our first single hit saber welfare, which is pretty rare and good. So Benny Enma, here are the stats here. First skill, evasion for 1 turn, increase crit damage for 3 turns. Solid. Defense, okay. Second skill, reduce enemies' defense by 3 turns, reduce their crit attack chance for 3 turns, seals their NP for 1 turn, and gives them 1000 HP as a demerit. So the demerit is not that bad. Like, 1000 HP does not make a difference. And also, if you use this skill at the start of the wave or battle, they don't regenerate HP, they just stick to max HP, so totally fine. Third skill, increases party's attack for 3 turns, increases party's buff removal resistance for 1 turn, charges party's NP gauge, recovers party's NP by 1000, and then also the enemies recover 1000 HP. So a lot of HP recovering, not too much. It's just small demerits for the enemy and yourself. But so far, Benny Enma's skills seem pretty solid in terms of like a support role sort of thing, because the first one, the evade, works for himself, so that's fine. The second and third skill, you know, you buff your team and you debuff the enemy team. And I'm pretty sure he's a single hit, right? Or she. Is it a she? Female. She is a single hit. Single hit arts. Yes, correct. And that's pretty good. Like, look at this defense. So 20% defense minus. Perfect. Cool. Seals their NP. Pretty solid. This is guaranteed, actually, from the looks of it. Increase party's attack by 20%. Charges the whole party's NP by 20%. That's a solid waiver skill right there. Pretty dope. Passive skills, crit, debuff resistance, crit damage, arts, and then crit star generation rate. NP is a single hit. Increases damage against chaotic and evil alignment enemies first. That's pretty good. There are a good majority of chaotic evil servants or enemies or characters in the game. So, you know, solid, I gotta say. Really solid saber. And you know, even so, the skills don't buff herself, it buffs the whole team, which is just a bonus. And technically, if you're still fighting with Benny Enma herself, she can survive with her evade, which is on 6 turn cooldown, and still pretty decent. Charging NP, buffing attack and debuffing defense. Solid saber, I must say. I remember seeing her in as the New Year's Servant, and I'm just like, I don't know what her skills does, but I mean, she's the New Year's Servant, so she's not that bad, I guess. And you know what? Her design pretty rocks. I like it. I like it a lot. I would not be mad trying to get this servant, or getting her in the GSSR in the future or something like that, because I like the saber class, and like I said, she looks cool. Dig it. Bird. So she will be our New Year's servant, not right away on the 31st or January 1st. There's supposed to be an event that comes out, I believe. Then she'll be rated up right before Lishu and Assassin. So Ben Miyama is a pretty solid servant, I must say. Now on to the top, the beginning 5. I don't know what I'm talking about. The last honorable mention, which is Miyamoto Musashi Berserker, the summer servant, the very first summer servant, or not, the summer servant for 2020, the first banner. So I say this in terms of what I hear in JP, because JP has more further stuff, and they have the Castoria, the arts loop method, because Musashi is a AoE arts berserker, and because everyone right now is raving about Caster Artoria and the arts teams and the arts meta and whatnot, that's why I keep hearing about Musashi, or just a lot of arts servants in general. But considering that, because that's literally the year after the next anniversary, 2022 anniversary, you have to consider this, because she will also be rated up right before Caster Artoria. So if you fail next year in 2021, right, yeah, that's it. And then if you fail to get her in 2021, then 2022 the rerun happens for the event, and she'll come back right before Caster Artoria. So if you want to do the arts looping and damage and stuff with Caster Artoria and Musashi, then that's your chance. So her skills: self evasion for 1 attack, solid. Increased crit damage. Oh, this is really nasty, actually. Crit damage with the arts thing. So the second skill, I think this is the same as her saber counterpart. Doubles the hit count, and double hit counts when normal attacking with arts cards for 1 turn. Reduces own damage per hit by 50% when attacking with arts card. Increases own damage when normal attacking with arts cards for 1 turn. Increases own MP generation rate for 3 turns. Solid, actually. This is solid for the arts looping. I can see it already. I use it on her saber counterpart all the time. Third skill, ignores invincibility, increases attack, gives herself guts, and deals 5,000 damage to herself. Okay, that's kind of whatever. Reduces all enemies' defense for 3 turns. Solid, actually. Mana's enhancement, riding, noble phantasm, deals all damage to all enemies, reduces their crit attack chance to seal all saber enemies NP for 1 turn. That's free, I guess. That's a cool little niche anti-saber stuff here. So her, literally, I'm looking at her skills, and I see this one in particular with her saber counterpart. If you have her saber counterpart, it's the similar thing where it's your NP generation skill. Then the first skill and the second skill give her some defense with the guts and the evade for 1 attack. This demerit is kind of rough, considering her HP is 12,000, so it won't go down to 1. But I mean, that actually, it's not bad, because she has the guts, so even if she dies, the guts will trigger. Increase her attack, reduce defense, pretty solid. Anti-saber, little overcharge skill here, but aside from that, her NP hits, and with the arts, and I would assume that she can NP loop pretty decently with her arts cards and stuff. And even with what's called Caster Artoria in the future, probably gonna be super good. So, I am probably trying to roll for Caster Artoria, but I don't know about rolling for her personally for myself. I mean, I like Musashi. I got her saber version, so I really like Musashi. But trying to use her from arts looping, and then she's right before Artoria Pendragon Ruler, who's on my list number 1. Then I can't accept that, guys. I'm sorry, but she's still a solid sword to consider for. So I mostly put her up top because of the fact that we have Clairvoyance EX, and we know that Caster Artoria and arts teams and arts looping is a thing in the future. So if you don't have Scotty, and you'll have quick teams to farm or something like that, then you know, looking into the arts loops and whatnot is something to be valuable looking into in the future, because that's literally 2 years from now, or a year and a half or whatever. So that's all my honorable mentions. Like, these are like, I mean, you could also consider this top 10 list. I don't know what the hell I was thinking of with this list, but I was just organizing the lower 5 and the top 5. So these are the lower 5 servants. Going back in the order, we have Sima Yi, Rhaenys, King Protea, Li Shuen, Benny Enma, whoops, Benny Enma's here, and Musashi Berserker. So very good servants to consider for, and really, you know, decent servants that I wouldn't mind rolling for. I was thinking about rolling for all of these servants, mostly Rhaenys and Musashi, and Li Shuen and Benny Emma, after talking with you guys in the comments just a bit and looking at them. But there are just way too many damn servants next year, and that's why. So in the lower top 5, Kama. So we have another single hit assassin here, but hear me out here. This, like, number 1, she's a Sakura face. Alright, that's the bonus. That's a +1 on my part. And her stages do change over time, which is pretty cool. Her skills. First skill, reduce an ally's attack, or reduce an ally's HP by 1,000 as a demerit, but overcharges their NP by 1 stage, 1 time, 3 turns, and then recovers her own HP. Solid. It's that, what's the C? The Blatzfatsa C? I forget. There's a C that, you know, increases your NP overcharge effect by 1. That's pretty cool. And that's in the skill too. A 5-turn cooldown skill. Second skill, gives herself guts, increase attack for 30%, 3 turns. Solid. Third skill, charges her own NP gauge, and then gives herself advantage against alter egos for 3 turns. So this is the very interesting thing that I did not know about when I first saw this character. Increases own critical damage by 20% for 3 turns, and reduce all enemies' charm debuff resistance for 1 turn. So very interesting. We'll talk about that later after her skills. So riding, independent action, the NP. So her NP is a single hit quick. So it sounds like Jack. Deals damage to an enemy, 8% chance to charm them for 1 turn. Pretty stacked damage at NP1. Increases own quick performance for 3 turns. Activates first as overcharge. That's pretty solid, actually. If you use this on herself, that's pretty good, actually. So single hit assassin. So what I hear is that people consider her to be up there in terms of the best single hit assassins in the game, you know, being compared to Jack the Ripper. Although Jack the Ripper has a special unique trait for female, so she's like an anti-female thing, extra damage to female servants, so that's on that part, and she can just make crits for days. I should know, I have her. But looking at Kama's skill, she brings a lot of good versatility for this 3rd skill, because is there like we rarely fight alter egos, but I swear, whenever I fight an alter ego, I'm just like, what is your weakness? Is your weakness Berserker? I guess it is. Or alter egos or foreigners. No, foreigners are weak to them. So having her give a skill to deal double damage against alter egos and take less damage from them is pretty solid, because I mean, I haven't really remembered too many alter egos so far in the game, but like when Seraph comes out, I think Seraph comes out after her release, so this is really perfect in timing, because most of the alter egos in this game are the Sakura faces, right? So it's ironic that the Sakura face here gets a damage bonus against the other Sakura faces and the alter egos and whatnot, like King Protea, Melt, Passion Lip. BB is not a thing, actually, so that doesn't count. But other alter egos like Okina Soji, Mecha Elizabeth, Kiara, you're getting damage against alter egos just like that for 3 turns in the skill that's on 6-turn cooldown. Pretty solid. Even if you're not fighting against an alter ego, the fact that you also reduce their charm resistance by 20%, and the fact that her charm has an 80% chance to charm them for 1 turn is pretty big, because I hear something about like a charm loop. So if you're somehow able to, you know, charge your NP super fast all the time, and, you know, charm the enemies after NPing all the time, then you could probably have them stun loops or something like that, from what I'm assuming, hearing from players and stuff talk about. So, and besides the fact, It's a single hit assassin with a 50% NP gauge charge. That's pretty solid. Like, if she was AoE, like, there's not an AoE assassin that has an NP battery, is it? Well, Semiramis does have that, but she's limited, so... I mean, the fact that Karna is also limited too, but this is a single hit assassin that can charge her NP gauge by 50% every turn, like every 6 turns, and you know, has some NP looping potential from what I'm seeing here, and can deal solid damage and stun the enemies with their charm. Like, pretty good. And once again, Sakura face. So, you know, personally for me, after thinking about it, I might be rolling for Karna depending on how good the Khalid Elia rolls for me work. So we'll see what happens there. But this is a strong contender, personally for me and for a lot of people. People highly regard her. And her banner does come with Parvati, which is one of the main reasons why I'm trying to roll for this banner, maybe in the future, depending on how everything goes. Because Parvati is really good for the Scotty loop. So if you're missing her for Scotty looping, I'm using her quite a lot in Christmas, ironically. A lot of people are probably. So solid banner to roll for, solid character to roll for. She does get a rate up or a rerun the year after in 2022, so it's totally fine if you don't get her the first time. But solid character, servant to get for, you know, anti alter ego destroyer, you know, pretty solid. So that's top 5. Next up, in terms of my list, I'm not too sure. Like I said, I don't have a number ranking for these characters. I just have the top 5 and the lower 5. So next up in the top 5 is Arjuna Alter, who I hear is pretty stacked, really stacked. So triple buster deck because she's a berserker, solid. Skills: increase attack for 3 turns, 30%, good. Increase own damage against enemies with debuff for 3 turns. Interesting choice, I guess. I'll have to see how this applies later on. Second skill: increase own absorption of crit absorption through buster cards for 3 turns, and then charges NP gauge. That's actually pretty solid. Third skill: give guts and recover HP. Solid. Passives: increase buster by 12%. Pretty solid because you have 3 buster deck. NP: deals damage to all enemies. Buster: it reduces their buster resistance for 3 turns. Activates first. Oh, I see it right here. So what this screams to me, and should to a lot of you, is that this guy hits hard and he's a berserker. So if I said that King Patea is someone that likes to charge their NP and hit hard with buster red cards, then Arjuna Alter is the same thing but berserker, so he kills a lot of things and he's AoE. So this first skill makes sense. So increases attack and then increases damage against enemies with debuffs. So this in tandem with the NP, the reduce their buster resistance happens first, then you hit them with their damage. So that's pretty solid. So you're definitely getting the damage buff out of this. And the fact that he can charge his NP gauge by 30% every 5 turns is solid because he only has 1 arts card, and you can probably, you know, support him with the waivers or the NP batteries or the Merlins. And then here's his survivability to, you know, not die and also heal a bit. This is on 5 turn cooldown too. This is pretty solid because this one's for 3 turns too, right? So yeah, man, I can see why people really like this guy. He hits hard. So I do have Raiko, but I mean, if you're looking for like a berserker that can do a lot of damage against waves of enemies, then you know, Arjuna Alter is pretty solid, and I'm pretty sure he's a limited servant. Yeah, okay, he's limited. That's why I'm saying here, and it is Arjuna. You know, Arjuna and Karna, I like a lot. Their whole dynamic as they're being rivals. I have none of them, so you know, this guy is pretty cool. I wouldn't mind having this guy on my team, although I do have Raiko, because Mama Raiko, right? But I have to say, his skills are pretty solid. I would say that he probably does a little bit more damage than Raiko, maybe. Just maybe, because he can crit hard, he can charge NP, he can debuff them with buster resistance, and then get super stacked damage right here. That's 80% right here at max level 10. And reduces their buster resistance and stuff. Now, technically, the comparison with Raiko is like Raiko can make stars with her NP too, but like this is just like raw damage from my eyes. I'm just like, damn, this is the guy I do not want to fuck with. And I'm pretty sure in Lost Belt 4 or 5 or whatever we are in the future, I think we do fight Arjuna Alter, because I've seen challenge videos of people fighting Arjuna with Karna, and this is gonna be very fun to fight with. Thankfully, he does not have a freaking ignore, invincible, or evade, although he might have it in the story boss fight. But knowing these skills is pretty good foresight, because this guy seems pretty stacked. Well, that's it for Arjuna Alter. Next up in the list, we got here Space Ishtar, Avenger Ishtar. So finally, I looked up in the skills of this thing, and it turns out I was right. I actually do know her skills to an extent from just my memory. So here's her stats. Her skins are very interesting. I mean, it might pertain more to the lore once we actually play Saber Wars 2, but I mean, this is the Darth. Is it supposed to be Darth Vader? I'm pretty sure. You know, Saber Wars, Star Wars references, whatever. I've been watching Mandalorian lately too, so I'm in the Star Wars hype right now. First skill: increase attack for 3 turns. Increases party's attack except herself for 3 turns. Shame, but whatever. Grants party charm debuff immunity except herself. Charm debuff immunity. Does she charm everyone? So increases her attack by 20%. Increases the whole party's attack by 30%. That's cool. Whatever. Second skill: increases NP damage for 1 turn. 1 time 3 turns. Gives herself invincibility for 1 attack 3 turns, and then lets her select her own NP command card type between Quick, Arts, or Buster for 3 turns. That's pretty good, and her NP is default in Arts, so that's pretty interesting to think about. Third skill: charge NP gauge. Wow, really? Actually, hold up. Okay. 80% chance to increase Arts, Quick, or Buster performance by 20% for 3 turns. That's kind of iffy. You'd probably want someone who has buff success rate, like I think Dio has that, or Azimad Dio. But yeah, I'm not sure where the charm comes in. I am very not sure where the charm comes in this thing, but okay, that's cool. We have a charm debuff immunity, so that's cool. So let's see your passives: crit damage, debuff resistance, Avenger, EX, and stuff. So her NPs, so this is going to be really interesting because we have to look at 3 different NPs, but here's her Arts NP, which is default. Deals damage to all enemies, increases own damage of extra attack by 100% for 1 turn, so that's pretty solid. Her NP overcharge effect is increased NP damage for 3 turns, activates first. Pretty solid. Buster, same shtick, except different numbers because Busters, and then Quick, same thing. So the reason why Avenger Ishtar is very highly talked about from what I'm hearing, and just like everything else, number 1, it's Ishtar. Rin fans like me, okay, fanboying aside, basically the fact that she can change her NP makes her very, whatchamacallit, she can work for any team or any servant basically. So let's say you have Waver or Merlin, you can change your NP to Buster, so it works fine. You can use Scotty and change her NP to Quick, and I'm just like, oh shit, I never thought about that fact. And then, you know, her skill's pretty solid because she can charge her NP by 50%, so she is one of the NP spam works, I must say. So this one actually pretty works fine because you probably want to use this first and see which one gets buffed in terms of your card type. Then use this to change your thing unless you want to keep the arts and stuff. And then NP damage total bonus, NP charge bonus, increase her attack, and then increase the party's attack. So although she is an Avenger, which is like, you know, an interesting class because fighting rulers in this game is on the rare side, but it's kind of the same for Dantes, who has like neutral damage to everyone else, or like takes neutral damage for everyone, deals a little bit extra higher damage to other classes and stuff. But yeah, I like this sort of, I like her kit basically. Like the ability to change your NP type and fit for other variety of teams and stuff is solid. Like that's a cool skill and ability to have, and I think she's the only one so far who can change her NP to all the different types of cards so far. I know there's one in the future who will change it from Buster to Arts, but for now, my memory serves, no one can change their NP to all 3 cards at will, and this is on 5-turn cooldown, so that's pretty solid. Getting 50% battery. She has a double art and double buster deck, so it's pretty solid. So I see that the Scotty and the Quick is probably not for her, but like Caster Artoria, Merlin, solid. Like, oh man, this is actually really fun to look at, actually. You know, Saber Wars 2 is at the end of, mostly towards the later half of 2020, so after the anniversary, after summer. So I'm not gonna lie, guys, if you see me there, I wouldn't be surprised. Space Ishtar is pretty solid. Pretty solid. Next up in the list, we got, of the top 5, bam! Super Orion. This guy, this beefy boy here, finally evolved from being a bear into a full-blown man. This guy, okay, so I hear so much about this guy in terms of damage. Looking at his deck, he has a triple buster deck. Oof, this guy really wants to hit hard. Let's see his center stage. Ooh, oh wow, this guy's going freaking full seriousness. Kind of reminds you of Garen from League. I don't know why, just does. Skills. Increased buster performance for 1 turn. Increased own damage against beast or demonic enemies for 1 turn. Ooh, that's a solid 100% damage bonus right here. 50% at level 10 buster. 50% against beasts or demonics. Second skill, gives self guts. Cool. Increased attack for 3 turns. Gains crit stars. Pretty cool. And since he's an archer, he probably would absorb such stars and stuff. Third skill, increase on critical star absorption for 3 turns. Cool. Grants self on attack activate buff for 3 attacks 3 turns. Increases on crit damage for 1 turn when attacking with buster cards. Activates first. Interesting. So increase your crit absorption, and then an on attack buff. Increases on crit damage for 1 turn when attacking with a buster card. Oh, I see what's going on here. So this guy's stacked buster deck is really like, ooh, yeah, he doesn't have a buster NP. I'm pretty sure he doesn't have a buster NP. Passives, increase crit damage, blessings, this thing. Null Phantasm is arts. Ignore invincibility for 3 turns. Increase attack for 3 turns. Give self debuff immunity for 3 turns. Gain 10 crit stars every turn for 3 turns. And overcharge is increased own critical damage for 3 turns. So he doesn't actually have an offensive NP, but his cards is where he's trying to hurt a lot. So looks like you want to use this NP to buff himself. Like, you're really trying to buff this dude and have his triple buster deck. Like, I'm seeing this right here. So buster performance, cool. Increase attack and get 20 crit stars, which is not enough for all 3 of his buster cards, but you probably want 30 or 50 probably, you know. But then this skill, you know, give yourself, so first skill, buster up. Second skill, make crits and increase attack. Third skill, absorb the crits, and then you get a buff for when you trigger the crit damage of the buster card, it increases a lot more. So this guy is a crit monster from what I'm looking at here. And then this NP is literally just a buff to ignore invincibility, increase attack, get more crit stars, and increase your crit damage. So I could see why people regard this guy as super hard. He must hit really hard with crit. Man, that's pretty interesting. It's an interesting concept to see someone with like a non-offensive NP, but like his cards. It's his card, his normal attacks are where it's at, man. That triple buster deck on an archer too, that's pretty unique, I must say. Beefy Super Orion. I don't have the, what's her name, Artemis or Orion, the other one we have right now, but this isn't like an offensive archer, but this archer can hurt a lot basically in terms of 1v1 or something like that. So pretty solid. I see why people regard this guy. All I knew when he came out from, what was it, Lost Belt 5.5 or whatever, is that he hit hard and he was Orion. And I'm just like, okay, I don't know what his skills does, but I see that he has very hard crits, and his buster deck is, you know, hit red buttons, hit buster, kill enemies, you know, sort of thing. But I see why. This is pretty solid. Like, this is like, ooh. And then this thing with beast and demon enemies, it can be pretty useful. I'm not too familiar on all the enemies and what types they are, but I mean, if there is a time when you're fighting a beast or a demon, then they're gonna be scared of this guy. This guy's freaking sweet. And now the final in my top 5, in my personal opinion, and someone I really do want to summon, and it's pretty solid, is bam, Leonardo da Vinci Rider, the anniversary servant for 2020, who is up there in my main goal. She is going to be right before Artoria Ruler, so oh goodness help me. So finally our Leonardo companion has become a servant on our journeys of lost belts and stuff. She is not the caster version due to reasons. I don't know if you're, story wise, don't know what. Let's just call her Da Vinci Lily. All right. So why is she super good, and why is being our anniversary servant being super solid? First skill, grants self debuff immunity for 3 turns, fine. Recovers HP for 3 turns, fine. Charge NP gauge for 3 turns, super solid. Second skill, gives itself evasion for attack, increases crit damage, okay. Third skill, increases party's NP damage for 3 turns, charges party's NP gauge by 10%, overcharges the whole party's NP by 1 stage for 1 turn. That's pretty solid. That's really good. Passives, arts and writing. NP, deals damage to all enemies and charges party's NP gauge by 20%. Overcharge effect is increased arts performance by 20% before her NP hits. So what this thing tells me is that she is a super awesome rider that can hit all the enemies and also support your team, and that's pretty good because I am kind of running low on the AoE riders in my regard. Although I do have a certain 5-star who's NB3 and spooks the crap out of me, but she's bond 10, so I can't, I don't want to try to use her if I don't have to. But out of any of the other, other riders who are AoE and stuff, Da Vinci is super solid. Like, first skill, charges, well, she can also NP spam, but also support the enemy team. So that's really good. So this skill, charge NP gauge for 3 turns, every turn. So that's at max rank at 10, that's 20% for 3 turns. So that's 60% charge your NP. This one's just an attack, dodge and the thing. This one charges the whole party's NP by 10%. So if you combine that with the first skill after 3 turns, that's 70%. Increases the NP damage by 30%. Overcharges the NP stage for everyone. So that applies to her too. That increases her arts performance. Her passives increases her arts and quick, which is, I'm pretty sure, oh, it's only 1 quick card, never mind. Her NP hits enemies with arts cards and charges the whole party by 20% in their NP afterwards. Solid. I smell here NP spammer because she's also arts. Yeah, I smell an NP spammer in the works, guys, and that's pretty solid because all of her skills are really good at 4 turn cooldown. Oh, that's solid. 6 turn cooldown. That's totally fine because it's a 3 turn skill. So she has multiple ways to charge NP gauges of her allies and herself and buff the team in their NP damage and their overcharge effects. She has the dodge for 1 attack if it somehow saves you. She can heal and then nullify debuffs and stuff. And she's arts, so her arts NP gain must be on point. Pretty solid as an anniversary servant. Now, the only reason why I'd see someone not bowling for Da Vinci is if you have another AoE rider of yourself. Like, there's a bunch of other good AoE riders out there, like Francis Drake, cough cough, Achilles works with the Scotty system too. I'm assuming you could cast story, double caster Artoria with a Da Vinci rider in the future, probably, and she is the anniversary servant for next year. So in terms of like rolling for anniversary servants, that's her only rate up until the year after. She actually does get rated up alongside with Caster Artoria on some days the year after. But aside from that, this is like her only rate up unless it's a GSSR, I'm pretty sure. Let me see here. FGO anniversary, GSSR, yeah. So that's pretty much it. So Da Vinci is a solid rider. Like, when I saw her in as the anniversary servant for JP, and I saw her skills, I was just like, oh my, this is my chance. Also, I feel a little bit on the guilty side because of what Da Vinci does for us in the story. you all probably know what I'm talking about. And the fact that I don't have the caster version, and I'm just like, okay, Da Vinci, you a true one, right? You help us out all the time. You take one for us, and I don't have your servant version, your caster, unfortunately. So I gotta stick with the writer one because I'm actually looking for writers myself. So that's totally cool. So yeah, big anniversary servant right here. And on the anniversary, we do get a bunch of quartz given to us for free. I believe, I forget the exact reason why they give us quartz, because I think this year it was because of interludes or something like that. I forget exactly why. But next year, let's just say, do all the free quests. Cough, cough. Don't slack on that. So I think that's that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but yeah, that's why I think when we get quartz for next year. So when the anniversary comes up and Da Vinci Writer comes up and they give you a bunch of free quartz, might be interesting to summon for Da Vinci Writer. And of course, you will definitely see me roll for Da Vinci Writer. I think she's an awesome servant, and I like the look, and it looks like her basically a Da Vinci Writer, and her skills are pretty solid in support, and she can probably hit hard too because of her NP being arts and the loops and the whatnots and the arts. Screams everything for me. So that is it in terms of the top 10 servants that I think are worth considering to roll for in a FGO 2021. Sorry. There are a lot more other people, and that's like there's Nobu Avenger, there's I don't know who else, Murasaki Shikibu or something like that, I forget who their name was. And that's not even to mention the people that get reruns, right, for old servants. So Gilgamesh, Battle of New York rerun, Merlin, Second Summer, MHX Alter, Saber Wars 2. Like, there's so many chances for servants in this game. I've seen people in my comments, you guys trying to roll for older servants like Nero Bride or Tamamo Cat or something like that. Or not Tamamo Cat, Tamamo Caster. Like, there's so many solid servants to roll for in 2020. And if you're trying to get like both old servants and new servants, then like, oh my goodness, I wish you luck, man, because like I'm trying to not spend too much in the next year. Maybe considering going the free-to-play life next year for that year for 2021. And if that's the case for me, then like I have to plan accordingly and wisely. So that's to take into consideration, GSSRs in the future, the free 5-star ticket in the future, other things like that, etc. So let's do a quick recap of who I think are the very worst servants to look out for in this 2021 year. 10, so Sima Reynes, King Protea, Benny Enma, Lishuan Assassin, Musashi, Berserker, Summer, Kama, Arjuna Alter, Space Ishtar, Super Orion, where is he? There you are. And Leonardo da Vinci Writer. Like, these are like all the servants up there. And if I had to put my personal favorite in there, Artoria Pendragon Ruler, biased, but that's just me. And of course she's not on this list because I'm looking at this objectively and whatnot. So yeah, these are some very good servants to look forward to. I think I pretty much already know what people are trying to roll for, but if you didn't comment on my previous video, let me know who you're trying to roll for, old or new servants in the general FGO Masters. And once again, 2021 is a stacked year, and thankfully it might help that the gacha gifts buffed during the anniversary. So that's it for this video. Hope you all enjoyed. Let me know your comments and feedback and stuff in consideration for the servants I talked about. These are just servants, I wouldn't like to talk about buffs or interludes in the future, but some of the servants that are in 2021 do get interludes or buffs in the future. Like, for example, I'm pretty sure Nobu Avenger gets a buff that finally does the burning field thing. That's her thing. And aside from that, King Protea had a buff in her thing afterwards. I don't know when that is a thing. Rhinus gets buffed the year after during the interlude campaign, so you technically don't have that third skill to charge the NP yet, and stuff like that. I don't want to look at interludes, but like, they come eventually. If you get these servants and they get buffed in the future, that's awesome for you. I try to look at them and pick the servants that I don't want to consider the buffs, but they're whatever. So hope you all enjoyed. Leave me know what you think in the comments below, and continue the farming, guys. We got 7 days left in December, or 7 or 8 days, depending when I put this up. And keep on doing that lottery farming. I am exhausted, and even more thinking about who to roll for in 2021. I need to plan out my months and the courts and the stuffs entirely, because I'm like somewhat low paranoid about rolling for next year and who to go for, and if my luck will, you know, prevail of the year. I hope everyone's rolls get super lucky in 2021. I've seen you all in the comments. I know who you guys are trying to roll for and stuff, and if you guys got some tall orders of servants you want to roll for, then all I can say is good luck everyone in FGO 2021. Roll accordingly, roll wisely, all I can say, because, you know, if you take into consideration GSSRs and stuff, you might be able to slither your way through the servants and who you get and stuff. Once again, thank you for watching. I'll see you all later. I'm sounding like a broken record. I am very tired. I've been talking for an hour straight. Thanks again, everyone, and hope you all enjoy the rest of 2020 FGO. Continue that lottery farming. See you all later. Take care, guys. Matane.